Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Kirbicast, a monthly video game and other miscellaneous media news podcast, or whatever the f it is, hosted by yours truly, Gab the KiRBiZOiD. Today we will be talking about games such as Pikmin 4, Pokémon Platinum, and Pokémon Sleep, and other news such as Charles Martinet's unfortunate retirement, or moving on to a Mario ambassador, and the game devs being mad at Baldur's Gate 3. This is going to be a relatively short episode, but still, it'll be just as high quality, hopefully. But, if you don't know what the quality, or at even a bare level what this podcast is about, this is the YouTube podcast that can't be surpassed, and the host of the show. So Mario Party 8 is out. It's the Kirbicast. Hello, and most importantly, hello. Welcome back to the Kirbicast. Like I said, this is a monthly video game and other miscellaneous media podcast hosted by yours truly, Gib Kerbo. Welcome. How you doing? I am feeling pretty good. Tomorrow I have a very important job interview, which could be very nice. And so it's going to be well after the interview and probably when the final results come in, whether I get the job or not. So, but some encouraging comments about life going forward would be pretty nice. Because you can't really wish me luck on something that's already done by the time this episode comes out. But how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. I just got done playing some Baldur's Gate 3 with some friends, and I want to save that for next month because I feel like my discussions with Pokemon this episode are going to be the main episode. They're going to be the main topic of today's episode, at least when it comes to gaming. So next month, be sure to keep an eye out for possibly some Baldur's Gate 3 stuff. And I guess while I'm talking about it for the brief moment, thank you, Jared, one of my good friends, Jared, for gifting me Baldur's Gate 3, because chances were I was not going to buy it, not because, not because I don't think the game would have been fun, but most importantly, one, I don't have money, and two, I'm not that big into open world games, unless it's like a multiplayer thing, and, I have people holding me accountable, and you definitely provided, so thank you, Jared, for Baldur's Gate 3, and thank you for the ability to let me play with you guys. I'm playing as Jim Carrey Grinch, and that's all I'm going to say until next month, so if that is not something to advertise next month's podcast more, there you go. But welcome everybody to the Kirbicast. I'm Gab the KiRBiZOiD, and today we're going to be talking mostly, at least when it comes to gaming, about Pokémon. The famous game. It is easily the most lucrative, most well-known franchise in the world. There's going to be children nowadays that know Pikachu and not know who Mickey Mouse is. There's one child out there. You never know. But yeah, it's a big franchise, and over the past few months, I have been very vocal about my personal distaste towards Pokemon. And it's not that I hate it. I love the games, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is recently I've been very burned out. For those who don't know, I have a very love-hate relationship with Pokemon. Gen 5 is my absolute favorite, and then starting from Gen 7, Sun and Moon, I started to wane off, and then with Scarlet and Violet, you can see my 11-hour live stream of that, trying to beat the game, and then finally snapping, and just realizing that it took me, not even the 11 hours, but also the other, multitude of hours that it took me to finally get to the good parts of a game. And that's when I was like, well, something tells me I'm just not a Pokemon fan anymore. And then I've been very vocal about my distaste towards modern Pokemon. And yeah, that was where my story ended. But then I was like, oh, damn, I forgot I bought Pokemon Platinum a while ago. And I think I even talked about that a few episodes back of the podcast. Sorry. And so I kind of realized, oh, maybe I should give this a chance, because for those who don't know, out of the quote-unquote classic Pokemon, DS era and Game Boy Advance era, the renaissance of Pokemon, or / the golden, it's the golden years of Pokemon, and then some consider the 3DS era to be the Silver Age, and then now we're entering is Pokemon even knowing what they're doing with video games at all era? Excluding new Pokemon Snap, because that game is actually quite good. And, depending on your opinion on, how you enjoy a game, you probably like Scarlet and Violet, and you probably like Sword and Shield. And you know what? I'm not going to diss that. There is no point in me doing that. That's stupid. I don't know. Regardless, Pokemon. It's a thing that's been a thing for like 30 to 20 years now, and it is insane that pretty much most all of my life there has been Pokemon. And now it is all of my life there's been Pokemon, and now I'm at a point with Pokemon that I don't enjoy what they're doing, and even though Generation 10 is on the horizon, I'm probably not going to buy it unless it's for a stream, and then after that I probably will touch it, never think of it again, and be like, damn, I really just wasted $60, maybe $70, depending on when this game comes out. I don't know. And again, this podcast doesn't have hindsight 2020, because we don't even know what Gen 10 even is going to look like. Maybe it'll just be Scarlet and Violet, but somehow with even more bugs and even worse gameplay. That would be, that'd be more impressive than anything. But you know what? Whatever. I realized that I have Pokemon Platinum in my game library, and I was like, well, Gen 4, Diamond and Pearl, base game, they were the only versions I ever played, and I hate them. I hate Diamond and Pearl. I hate that game so much. I just don't enjoy it. I don't know. It's just such a limited Pokemon variety, which is weird to say because I'm an original Black and White fan. But still, it's like, it's just, there's 2 fire types in the entire game, maybe 3, if you have trading and can get a Mag Mortar, I think is the name for it, but still, it's like, there's not a lot there. And so, what do I do to justify it? Then play the quote-unquote definitive version of Diamond and Pearl, which is Platinum. So instead of Dialga and Palkia, you have Giratina, the Pokemon that'll probably be the cover of this podcast. So there it is if you don't know what it is. But Diamond and Pearl was the first mainline Pokemon game to be out on the DS. It is their big leap into that era. So, you know, there are some growing pains, learning the hardware, learning what they can do with the hardware, and then moving on to, you know, their more definitive Black and White, which is just way more expressive. The animations are super solid. The story, both games have such a good story. I love Black and White. It is my all-time favorite Pokemon game, tied with Black and White 2, funnily enough. But I love those games. I love them to death. And so I wanted to try Platinum, which pretty much would have been the transition where they realized what they could improve going into Black and White while still having to deal with the same engine that is Gen 4. And so I tried it out, and funnily enough, I am going back to a lot of formulas and a lot of habits that I used to have in the original Pokemon games because of what you had to do at the time. And it made me realize that Pokemon, modern day Pokemon, and this might sound stupid, modern day Pokemon is way less restrictive, and I feel like it's in a bad way. And I want to explain it, and kind of not only for you, but also to myself to kind of see if I actually make sense. And so, welcome to the podcast. We're going to be talking about this, and then we'll talk about Pikmin 4, because I also have some thoughts with that as well, kind of just looking back into the games I've played, most importantly, the games I finished and the ones I haven't. And this also kind of goes into Pokemon Platinum because I haven't beaten it yet, but I still want to give a temporary 4 now score out of 5, which again, real quick, 0, dog shit, 1 is just bad, 2 is meh, 3 is good, 4 is great, 5, a personal favorite. That's what it is. Platinum right now is a 4, but I feel like it has the potential of being a 5. But again, I haven't played it yet, so I don't want to, swing it out of the park just yet. And I don't want to claim that it's swung it out of the park just yet. But real quick, just kind of talking into Pokemon Platinum, one of my biggest complaints, kind of, about Diamond and Pearl is the limited roster, and I feel like there's just slightly more Pokemon in Gen 4 or with Platinum compared to Diamond and Pearl, and I don't know if that's true. Genuinely, I kind of don't know if that's true. I feel like some things have just been tweaked. Ring, 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 editing Gab here to save the day. Probably for a lot of this episode, so if you hear this little background music change, you will know that this is editing Gab trying to kind of explain my thoughts further, or if it's like not properly explained, because if you've seen the title of this podcast, it's my kind of like my own personal Pokemon opinion, so if I don't explain something properly, this is where I come in, Hello. From what I can tell, yes, the roster of Pokemon Platinum has been expanded, but from what I can tell from the lovely people over at Cerebeat.net, it says that the Synodex has gotten a further 59 Pokemon, including all the non-legendary new Pokemon introduced in Diamond and Pearl. As such, trainers throughout Sinnoh and the wild Pokemon of Sinnoh have been changed to respect this. So I am correct in saying that there are more wild Pokemon. I don't know why I felt like I needed to explain this, but just for the simple fact for people that didn't know, yes, in the definitive version of a game, they made changes to even the wild Pokemon, the variety of wild Pokemon, but it is not by much, all things considered, because, like, kind of going back from my experience with Diamond and Pearl, yeah, the roster isn't really that, like, further fleshed out. There's still a limited dex number, and it kind of goes into my thoughts of further on about how restrictiveness isn't really bad when it comes to especially Pokemon, and I'll get more into that later in the episode, but I did want to further explain this, where, yes, the roster has been expanded, but I am correct in saying that it doesn't feel much different, because in reality, it's not that much. I don't know what exactly is the specific reason for why I hate kind of Diamond and Pearl. It just felt basic and boring. I feel like, it's so hard to play the game without having Luxray and Staraptor, and just that being on your team, or having Shellos, and then, I forget the evolution name, a Gastrodon, and then having those Pokemon, and then just wiping the team. Like, if you have a Gastrodon, you clear through the Elite Four, allegedly, as far as I know. And it's, I felt like there were no ways to experiment with different Pokemon, because I don't like playing Pokemon with the same team over and over again, and I assume most other people do, unless you're going back to re-experience the good old days in this team that you loved so much after, like, a long span of time. With Diamond and Pearl, I felt like it was extremely difficult to enjoy a team that was outside of, Luxray, Staraptor, your starter, Gastrodon, and then, like, whatever 2 HP or HM slaves that you had. I do like thinking about this, and then going into Gen 4 Platinum, my team is, it is still holding on to some Pokemon that are good, but then I forgot that, it feels like there's more Pokemon, or at least it feels like they're more readily available, more good Pokemon. Like, I don't think you were able to get Ralts in the original Gen 4, or in the original Diamond and Pearl. I don't fully remember it being available, at least. And so, just for that as an example, I found Ralts, I found, I don't know, I'm like, looking back on this, I found a Psyduck. I don't remember being able to find Psyduck early on in Diamond and Pearl. I don't remember, at least. And that's the big thing. It could also be that I've forgotten so much about the original Diamond and Pearl that playing Platinum, and also looking at it as, like, its own experience without the stigma of, oh, I don't like Diamond and Pearl, when I think it might also be that going into this as it's being as such a good game, it is one of the most well-known and respected games in the Pokemon franchise in the golden years of Pokemon, that maybe that's also, there's a million things, and again, bias is inevitable at this point. You're listening to a random trans girl talk about video games on the internet. You know that there are some factors at play, just in the way that I live, that could greatly change my opinions on this. 7 billion people on the planet. There's no way to actually have the definitive gamer opinion, no matter what, like, article you follow the most. Like, this is even talking about me, But still, I really did feel like the gameplay on its own was just way better. I feel like the battles in Pokemon Platinum, I felt like there were way more double battles, which is weird because I don't remember double battles really being that prevalent, even in the Game Boy Advance, where that was when it was introduced. In Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald, they didn't really do double battles a lot, but in this game, quite a bit, actually. They do a fair amount of double battles, and it also has to do with all of the people that you meet in the game that are just like, hey, I'll follow you around, and then you do double battles with that person. But even outside of that, there are double battles where you actually get to use 2 of your own Pokemon to fight the other 2 Pokemon. And I forgot how really good double battles are, and it's especially considering the restraints that I put on myself, in the sense of, I forgot that I used to do this, but in the original, like, golden years of Pokemon, I used to only have 4 Pokemon on my team. Because I used to plan out that I would keep a spot empty for a legendary and then the pseudo-legendary, if there was one. And so originally I used to only use 4 Pokemon, and back in the day, that was really hard to use. I feel like nowadays you can do that without a problem, especially now with like all of the overpowered moves every Pokemon can learn that can just kill the opponent in one hit. But you know, back in the day, your Pokemon probably didn't have super overpowered moves that could answer every single scenario in the single player, and also the single player, like the trainers, which originally I used to shit on, where I was like, oh, the formula of Pokemon is really stupid. Walk, fight a trainer, walk, fight a trainer, walk, fight a trainer, go to gym, beat the gym, walk, fight a trainer, walk, fight a trainer, with some story beats sprinkled in. I kind of forgot how cool of a system that is, and I feel like it was Scarlet and Violet pretty much helped me realize that what I was actually praising really isn't fun to play. Originally, I was super praiseworthy, I used to be super praiseworthy of the forced EXP share, simply because I was like, grinding is non-existent, I don't have to worry about grinding in an RPG, but don't have to worry about that. Problem is, you have to grind in an RPG to feel like you've actually done something, to feel like you're actually improving yourself. You want to see the number go up. You want to see that happen. Otherwise, if you can just go from boss to boss to boss, or in this case from gym to gym to gym, without having to do any training whatsoever, it feels like the game is easy, it feels like it's not worth your time, so you stop playing. That's what happened to Scarlet and Violet for me, until the game just spikes in difficulty at the end of the game for some reason, except for, you know, why couldn't they just do that for everything in the game? Oh, because they thought, oh, we're just going to make everything accessible, which then adds its own problems of, well, you're going to make the game either you're going to actually pace yourself correctly, or you can just wander off, make all your Pokemon level 100, and then steam through the entire game. It's way easier than you think. And back in the day, you couldn't do that. Unless you were very patient, you could not do that. And so, you know, just looking back on that, it's a lot. It feels like every victory and every bit of progress that I make in Pokemon Platinum compared to, you know, I'm going to compare Platinum just in general, the DS and, you know, Game Boy era of Pokemon to the more modern era. I feel like the 3DS era is good. The 3DS era is one that I enjoy. I really do enjoy it, and looking back, Sun and Moon actually is really cool. And to an extent, I feel like I enjoy Sword and Shield a lot more. I think I've said this. The internet, with all the drama that happened in you know, with Pokemon Sword and Shield, with it being, you know, oh my god, they're so lazy and all the models are the same as 3DS ones. I feel like if I did pay attention to that Discord, like all of that Discord on the internet, I feel like I would have enjoyed Sword and Shield much more. And it's to the point that I'm like, I might give Sword and Shield another chance. I don't know yet, though. I don't know. Regardless, the DS era of Pokemon, it felt like every victory was earned compared to the modern era, where, you know, you could just like go off for like 5 minutes and then already be max leveled, or you have your EXP candies and then you can just suddenly just trounce a boss. Doesn't matter. And then also, not to mention, and this can be completely, like, only committing to 4 Pokemon and nothing else. One, unless you're really fucking smart with your Pokemon choices, you cannot cover absolutely everything. I feel like that gives such a good balance, because you have 4 Pokemon, that's 4 different Pokemon to go through, but at the same time, you can't cover everything unless you're insanely smart and you know what to do. Which I'm not. I'm not smart. Come to figure out. And so, you know, just like thinking about that, you know, you're going through all the fights. You don't have an answer for everything, which I felt like was I don't feel like solving that problem is a good thing. I think you need to have a Pokemon. I think Pokemon needs to stop giving you the ability to cover everything, which sounds so stupid. Also, very unpopular opinion, I think we need to bring HM slaves back, because holy shit, having to keep one, it just, again, it limits your Pokemon, it limits your coverage, and so it limits your effectiveness in battle. But that way, you have to fucking make sure that you're making the right choices, and it actually makes the game a lot more fun. I kind of want to bring HM slaves back, or at the very least, next time I play a Pokemon game, I'm just going to have like 2 Pokemon fill-up slots just for them to be like vanity Pokemon, just to be like, you know, like the Togepi in the anime, where the Togepi, all the Togepi does in the anime, again, I haven't watched most of the anime, but, you know, the Togepi, you just hold the Togepi and you just walk along and the Togepi just reacts to whatever's happening, you know? Like, it can be like that, I feel. No EXP share, that's, I think I've already said that, where it's like, it feels like everything's earned, it feels like, you know, you actually spent time to grow these creatures, it feels like every evolution feels more deserved, it feels like every new move feels deserved, because you're taking the time to work on every individual Pokemon, and again, that's something, you can't say that, it's like, I feel like it's treading the line of the, do people remember the time travel debate in Animal Crossing where it's like, oh, you need to earn everything and you need to do this? While some people have to be like, well, I can't be at the specific thing at the specific time because I have a job, I have a family, you know? It's hard to be like, oh, I think the biggest problem, and this is something that I've had to understand as a gamer, which is weird to say, as a gamer, I had to figure this shit out. Huh. Yeah. We're gamers. I'm sorry. Really, I think just, it feels like Pokemon is way too accessible, making everything you do in modern Pokemon not feel deserved, if that makes sense, with the shared EXP share, and with you having 6 Pokemon, and like all the Pokemon can learn like any move to cover any situation. And there's a thing, you know, it's fun to have power trips in games, but it's just as fun to actually feel like you're challenged, and to actually feel like, because of your skill and your adaptability, you can succeed those situations. You know, that's why Dark Souls exists. That's why Cuphead exists. Now, do those games offer, well, Dark Souls doesn't, but does Cuphead add easier difficulties to help with that? Yeah, and that's an option that some game developers can and rightfully can't do. In the sense of Dark Souls, where it's like, if that is their decision as game developers to make the game hard and not provide an easy mode so everyone can have a similar experience, we shouldn't be shitting on them. That is their experience. If it's a good game, then that shouldn't be the debate. If it's not a good game, then it's like, okay, then, you know, then you can have that conversation. But again, then that also is like, well, then everybody should decide on whether the game's good or not, which is, you cannot do that. Again, 7 billion people on the planet. Consensus are just what we think. Like, we only think there are consensus to like game opinions and shit like that. But then you're like, oh yeah, there's like 7 billion humans on the planet. That's kind of impossible to do. Sorry to get like big and thoughtful about that, but it's like, it's just something I've been thinking about lately. Just think about that. 7 billion humans on the planet. How the fuck do we come to, like, how the fuck are people able to like form groups and come to decisions? Like, that's insane. Like big groups too. Like, that's insane. You know? And I think about that too. Weird tangent, but it's like YouTube. 7 billion humans on the planet, and like, you guys are like, you know, the tens of hundreds or whatever out of the billions of people on the human race on the planet that are alive, presumably. Comment down below if you're a ghost. Blech. That, like, watch my stuff. And I think that provides more, you know, it helps me appreciate you guys a lot more, you know? But whatever. But going back to Pokemon, just to summarize what I'm trying to say here, and I know I've been talking about this for like 20 minutes, so I do apologize. At the end of the day, I just think that Pokemon is trying way too hard to be accessible to like the youngest of kids. And I'm not saying, and it's, you know, Pokemon is a very big kid fan base, but I feel like even kids deserve better products. I think kids also appreciate doing something and feeling like they've earned it for a bit of challenge. You know, kids had to grow up with like Whitney and her Miltank. You know, kids had to grow up with Lance and his like 3 Dragonites, you know? And, you know, kids had to deal with the earlier stages of Pokemon, and they had to deal with that. That's no argument for the kids nowadays where they're like, yeah, this game's really fucking easy and the champion in Scarlet and Violet is nothing but a joke. And it's like the running gag that like, literally if she used one Pokemon to start, it would be a much more difficult fight. But she doesn't. And it's like, even the Pokemon devs realized, oh, we can't do this because we made a convoluted thing where only the last Pokemon has to be the one that we want to associate them with personality-wise. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. They should have a dynamic AI. You'd think with a basic role-playing game, turn-based thing, you'd think they'd be able to have some form of a dynamic AI in which Pokemon they chose next, or started off with. I don't fucking know, dude. At the end of the day, the reason I'm talking about why, it's like, yeah, but why are you wanting these games to be less, you want these games to be less accessible? You know, everybody should be able to play the video game. And here's the thing, everybody is able to play the video game, and I'm not trying to gatekeep Pokemon from people. Please let it be known, this is not me trying to be like, only the true Pokemon fan should be able to play Pokemon. I think every child should have the ability to play Pokemon the way that they want, and to play it. But here's the thing. You know how they do it the way they want? By picking the Pokemon that they want, by catching the Pokemon that they want. By, you know, and, you know, if you want to go to Scarlet and Violet's route, by choosing the gym leaders, by choosing the objectives they want to tackle first. The game has no right being that easy. At the end of the day, no video game is meant for everybody. As much as we want to fight that, and as much as we want to deny that, that is an objective fact. No single video game is meant for every single person. That's just true. This is a fact that carries into Dark Souls' gameplay, where there is no easy mode. The easy mode is how you tackled the situation. The easy mode is summoning other people to help you out, and mess with the AI that only knows how to tackle one person. The easy mode is going into an area, sneaking around all the guys, and getting some really good early game gear. Easy mode is like doing something that's actively making the game easier. The game should not bend over backwards to make the game easier for some people and making it a cakewalk for others. Unless you're playing on a fucking leapfrog, that should not be the case. I'm sorry. And again, I don't think, you know, there are still some things that Pokemon would still need to change to make this happen. It's not like a it's not like a simple blanket statement of make the game easy, make the game harder. Make a toggle switch for the game to be harder, because then there's so many things you have to adjust. At the end of the day, what people want is just a decent challenge. A challenge that they had to grow up with as kids. They had to deal with Blue. They had to deal with Red at the end of Gold and Silver. And, in Platinum's case, you gotta deal with Cynthia. You gotta deal with that bitch. And in Black and White, you have to deal with Cynthia again. You have to deal with N, you have to deal with Getsis, you have to deal with all of these trainers that do know and they are challenging. They are. And again, the easiness of the game depends on the Pokemon you bring into the fight. That should be your difficulty slider. The game itself should not bend over backwards to make the game easier. You should be the one making it easier on yourself. And I think that's the big thing. In my situation with Platinum, and that's why I want HMs to be back, because then that limits your ability to like swap out Pokemon. You have to think about what Pokemon you're going to bring into the next area while you're burdened with a slot for another Pokemon, so that they can break the blocks, or they can push the stones, or they can cut the trees. That should be something like, that's management. That's a challenge. That should honestly, and again, I remember the rejoice of that, and it's like, no, I kind of wish we brought back HMs, because now everything's accessible, so nothing feels worth my time. Maybe it's just me. And again, you know, but again, I feel like that's not the case, because again, It's not that like Pokemon needed to be easier. You know, I think that's the big thing. Kids don't like, kids are trying to enjoy Pokemon. Let the kids enjoy Pokemon. Bitch, the kids enjoyed Pokemon when it was challenging. The kids enjoyed Pokemon when they had to go through endless amounts of Zubat caves to the point that it's a joke, that it's annoying, but you have to go through it. And you know how you make that easier? You buy a repel. Kids had to learn how to be good at picking a Pokemon team to become the champion, to become the Pokemon master. You don't become the master just by walking around and just being able to trounce anything. Becoming a master requires effort. It requires time. It requires learning to adapt to the situation. To put it at an example, you don't become a master of art by just picking up a pen. You become a master by putting time and consistent dedication into adapting your own art style into something that becomes cool. Like, I didn't make Kirb, I didn't make any of my KiRBiZoiD graphics. I didn't just instantly learn how to do that. I had to take the time to adapt, to overcome, and to learn. And again, you know, that's a whole other thing. And again, maybe that's not a perfect comparison. Probably is not. But Pokemon, at the end of the day, and this is the last time I'm saying it, one, no video game should be made for everybody. If you do, then the game, it's not, I don't know, it's just like, it's not a video game. Because a video game requires you to fucking overcome something. Or, you know what, it's even in the simple things, like clearing a line in Tetris, to paying off your debt in Animal Crossing. You have to learn how to catch the bugs and how to do that, and how to find the best bugs and how to sell turnips correctly. Or do it however you want. That should be the difficulty. The game shouldn't force a difficulty down your throat. You know, or a game shouldn't have to force an easier game on you. The only person who should force an easier or more difficult time on a game is yourself. You should suffer the consequences of your actions. The game shouldn't try to force consequences on you, you know? Dark Souls, it's a punishing game. How you make it easier is through your own actions, not the game's. The game offers the options. All the game should do is offer options. Pokemon does not do that. It forces an EXP share on you, which means you can just have a Pokemon that you don't want to use, sit in your party for the entire game, and it still is just as strong as the other ones. Maybe not by... and maybe there's a gap there. But still, like, there's like probably... like, I don't like 6 Pokemon teams. For that simple reason, is because I just have like 2 Pokemon or 3 Pokemon that I just don't use except for a specific situation, and then I'm like, oh, that's why they're worth it, for that one situation and nothing else. So I don't feel like I've earned that Pokemon, you know? I feel like I haven't earned the right to have a powerful Pokemon like that. That's why they offer legendaries near the end of the game, to make it feel like this big moment that you had to fight through to get. You know? It's so, and that's, you know, hey, going back to the original Diamond and Pearl, that's why I didn't like Diamond and Pearl, because they gave you the easiest answers right there. They didn't give you an option with some harder Pokemon. They kind of did with Kricketune and Bidoof. But for the most part, they really didn't. And it's, you know, back in the day. But again, you know, one can argue that not choosing them is you choosing to make the game harder for yourself. And that's true. And yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, if I choose those harder Pokemon, it's going to feel even more deserved because I had to fucking grind those Pokemon to get them to where they were. In Scarlet and Violet, you don't get that choice. You can choose the worst Pokemon and then just have them wait in your party, fight some Chanseys, and then just not have them worry about anything. The EXP share existed, but you had to pick only one Pokemon. And again, I don't know. At the end of the day, the reason Platinum is so enjoyable in the bare sense compared to Scarlet and Violet, and again, I'm not talking much about Platinum, it's basically Pokemon, DS era, it is early DS Pokemon, it's good. I enjoy it. There's not much of a difference in Pokemon. You know, take it takes place in the Sinnoh region, and you have to stop Team Galactic's evil plans. I think everybody knows what Pokemon Platinum is if you're listening to this podcast. I don't think you just like I don't think you're someone that just kind of deals with stuff and then just goes through it, and you probably know what this game's about. Really, the reason I talk about this and then further explaining my Pokemon burnout is just simply this. Pokemon has tried way too hard to make the game accessible for absolutely everyone, to the point that nothing feels deserved, and you have to play all the way to the end game to even feel a remote sense of overcoming a great challenge. That should not be a thing. In my humble opinion, that should not be a thing. I feel like I need to fight. The whole point of Pokemon, and that's why I like the anime more, is because you get to see them actually train and have their Pokemon be better. They have to train them. Not in the game though. You can just have like one person use the Let's Go, use your starter on the Let's Go, and then all your Pokemon just gain experience, and you can just keep doing that until the game's done. It's so dumb. It feels like nothing's deserved. It feels like nothing's worth it. Gab the KiRBiZOiD mauls at Pokemon for 30 minutes. Whatever. At the end of the day, playing Pokemon Platinum, and again, I know I didn't talk much about Platinum, pretty much, but that's the thing. The reason I played Platinum was not because I wanted to play Pokemon Platinum. I wanted to see if my suspicions were right about, Pokemon change. Did it really change? And were there things that changed in the DS Pokemon that made Pokemon quote-unquote bad? Because, yeah, it's just like, once they got to Sun and Moon, the games got bad. Or once they got to X and Y, Sword and Shield, whatever, the games got bad. Well, was that the case? At least in my opinion, yes. I really do feel that. As much as I enjoy Sword and Shield, as much as I enjoy Sun and Moon, and then as much as I did have moments where I enjoyed Scarlet and Violet, admittedly, there are things that really feel like Pokemon has just made the game easier, not in the sense of providing an option to make the game easier or harder based on your choice, but it feels like the game is way too open. It feels like there's way too many Pokemon to make, it feels like there's way too many Pokemon to, so that there's an answer for everything, and it's just way too easy. It just really feels like there's no challenge anymore, unless you play the campaign that could take you like 30 hours, and then you're like, okay. Now what do I do? I don't know. At the end of the day, playing Pokemon Platinum it helped me realize there was something good to those games. I got worried that after playing Scarlet and Violet and not touching a single Pokemon game ever again, I genuinely got worried that Pokemon just wasn't good in the first place, It's that thing where you're just like, damn, it's been a while since I've played the past games. Has this always been the case? And then you kind of get in that loop of, oh god, maybe the childhood franchise I liked isn't that good anymore. Or wasn't that good in the first place. And it was just reassuring to know that, at least for me, again, could be different for multiple other people, at least to me, it really felt like, Pokemon, it did used to be good, but not anymore. And that's weird to say, but at least for me, it's not. Pokemon Platinum, just to put it in a thing, out of the other Pokemon games, it did more double battles. I feel like there is more Pokemon variety, if by a little, and I forgot how much I missed HM Slaves, and I forgot how much I enjoyed a actually challenging Pokemon game, and for that I give it a 4 out of 5. Because it's not really one that stands out to me to the point that I've kind of put it down for a bit, and I might drop it forever. But still, it was good to know that, and again, it's because I got like a fucking million other video games to play. I'm one human being. It still was just nice to know that Pokemon is actually good. And that might be sad to say, but it's like, yeah, Pokemon is a good game franchise when it chooses to be. But I feel like it trying to be a modern RPG where everything's accessible, it went way over its head, and now the game's an absolute fucking pushover, which I'm not a fan of. So, sorry. Moving on, I want to talk about Pikmin 4. So, last month I talked about Pikmin 4. Pretty much, Pikmin 4 is it's just a fucking quality video game, my guy. I don't know how else to say it. It's just pretty much I talked about how it's one of those games where it has that video game, like that Nintendo Switch quality, you know, that you get from Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Luigi's Mansion 3, Metroid Dread. Not Animal Crossing New Horizons, though. Kind of. I just don't like New Horizons, I'm sorry. It really felt like it was that Switch era quality that we've gotten recently. And in the sense that the movement is nice and it's nice and tight. The Pikmin just feel really fun to use. And it got to the point, and I said this in my trailer when I talked about it after Mario Party 8 Episode 1, which, holy shit, I actually was able to get an episode of Mario Party 8 out, I know. I'm just as amazed as you guys are. As someone who only played 1, you could tell that the gameplay was just nice. The gameplay was nice, really easy, and it was really easy to understand, and it was a real comfort game, weirdly enough. And again, Pikmin is weird in the sense that it is a cutesy game, but like the whole point is to not have your Pikmin get eaten and killed by like these other giant creatures in order to make sure your character doesn't die horrifically in some way. Pikmin is also a game where I felt like Pikmin 4 was just a fun game to explore. It was a game where I could just walk around with my dog and my little guys, and we could just solve a puzzle, find some fruit, find some treasure that's like maybe a Game Boy Advance. Maybe it's Kuru Kuru Kururin. Who knows? Maybe it's a fucking playing card and I get to learn what my guys are talking about. Pikmin 4 was just so fun, going into a dungeon and finding a weird little fight, finding all these weird creatures and killing them, and then finding more treasure. It was this nice loop of finding treasure, finding new areas by exploring the big world, and then you can explore the smaller worlds, and you can fight the bosses, and there are like little puzzles you get to solve. The game wasn't inherently hard, except for a few spots that were, you know, late game, which is good. Most of the game was a bit of a cakewalk, admittedly. Some bosses were way too easy, and especially if you fully upgrade Ochi. But again, the only way you can upgrade Ochi is by playing the game, exploring, and doing what needs to be done in order to upgrade your dog. It feels deserved, and you get to see the growth of your dog. And so, you know, late in the game, it might be like things aren't hard, but at the same time, you earned that ease of difficulty because your dog, you had to grow your dog, you had to train your dog. Pokemon could learn some things about Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 just overall was super fun, and especially the Pikmin variety. I can easily see me traveling to different parts of the world and using different combinations of Pikmin, like using rocks, purples and whites. I could see myself doing that. I could see myself using only red Pikmin for the entire game and seeing where that goes. I can see myself going for a faster time. I can see myself trying to collect as little as possible and seeing what the bare minimum is, seeing what the fastest run is. You know, doing all of that stuff. It is actually really fun. Or seeing if I can just survive with only Ochi. I know AlphaRad tried to do that, and maybe it's possible. I don't know. I don't. But maybe it's possible. Maybe it's something we can try at some point on a stream. I don't know. But it felt like there were so many different ways I could tackle Pikmin 4 that, honestly, I can see myself replaying that. But here's the thing. Not only did I beat the game, which is incredible, to say the least, and I'll get into that in a second, but also I 100%ed the game. I got every piece of treasure, I did every little side quest, I collected everything, I got it all. In about 40 hours. I put 40 hours into Pikmin 4 with no major stops. That is very hard for me. I'm not someone that is able to get, like, hooked on a game, if that makes any sense. One, because it took me a long time to kind of get back into gaming. The main reason I did it, honestly, was for quitting social media. And this may or may not be a transition for a quick second. It's a quick segue. But a big thing that helped me, you know, kind of quickly going into this, a big reason for why I'm able to play games again more consistently is giving up social media. And if you want to hear my journey about quitting social media and my progress so far with it, that is going to be this month's members only episode. So if you would like to hear that story and 3 other episodes that are just immediately available to you, like game collecting, my time on Twitch, and going to a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom pre-opening or a midnight release, consider becoming a member. You're going to go to the $5 tier, and that's going to get you all of the members-only episodes. So you get 4 more episodes of this podcast you get to listen to. So I might be biased, but it's pretty cool. But back to it. It's hard for me to really digest and actually play a game all the way to the end. It's really hard because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of commitment, and it's a lot of having to make sure I'm evenly pacing my time with the game, where it's like, I gotta commit to the game if I want to see it through. Sometimes it's hard for me to commit to a game. And so being able to enjoy Pikmin 4 to the point that I invested 40 hours to 100% the game instead of Tears of the Kingdom. Fun fact, I don't have a Tears of the Kingdom corner this month because I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom past my last time playing it. I haven't played it a single bit since Pikmin 4 came out, or hell, even since I recorded that podcast last month. I stopped playing it entirely, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going to pick it back up. I honestly don't, because I don't know, it's like, I feel like I need to I'm not big into open world games, and Pikmin 4 is a much more contained, a much smaller experience, and maybe that's probably why I enjoy it a lot. Just to say, Pikmin 4, goddamn, you're good. God damn, you're good. Again, just a quick summary for those that haven't, seen the last episode. Pikmin 4 is kind of a weird, time... It's kind of like a redo of the Pikmin timeline. All you need to know, Olimar, the Pikmin guy, gets stranded on PNF 404, the stranded planet that's totally not Earth. He sends out a rescue team. The rescue team gets stranded on the same planet, and then your playable character, which you get to customize, you get sent out, and then alongside you and your co-op captain, which is a dog named Ochi, you guys explore the world, save Olimar, save your rescue corps, and save anybody else that's trapped on the planet with the help of Pikmin, which, depending on the color of the Pikmin, can unlock certain parts of the game or are easier to fight with. It depends on what you prefer when you play the game. Pretty much, yeah, the whole point of the game is to explore, find castaways, find parts of your crew, find more Pikmin, find new Pikmin to tackle new obstacles, to access more of the game, and to keep doing that until credits roll. It's really cool. There's open world segments, but then scattered around the open world, there are these... And it's hard to say open world. It's like this little sandbox, pretty much. It's this little sandbox of a world, and scattered across these sandboxes are little dungeons, which then provide puzzle solving, sometimes more challenging boss fights, and then pretty much you get more treasure, more castaways, all that stuff. Bring that up, and then you just clear out the area, go to the next one, rinse and repeat until the credits roll. All that being said, the game is actually quite confined. It's not trying to be the biggest game you've ever played, or the game that you can just never run out of things to do, which I find very stupid. I don't know. I can't imagine myself playing a game forever, or at the very least, I can't imagine myself, committing to a game that much, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I just, not my thing. But still, Pikmin 4 is just, it's a contained experience. It knows what it wants to do, and it does it from start to finish. There's not a lot of deviation. There's no, wacky change of pace. It's just, the game expands into a more varied moveset. It gives you more options to tackle obstacles, and the game gets slightly more difficult as the game progresses. I felt like there was one difficulty spike in the game, but mostly it was because I was trying to get the best times during time attacks. It was this little tunnel that you get after beating the game the first time. It does a fake out credits, and then the second half of the game opens up. But after you do that first half of the game, there is this little bonus dungeon that spawns in your main hub area, and it is a bunch of challenges which are supposed to be, guess what? Challenging. So it's the difficulty spike. It is supposed to be an optional difficult series of events, and some of them are actually pretty damn difficult and pretty rage inducing because I tried to fine tune absolutely everything. But looking back on it, it was really cool to get the perfect time on it and micromanage absolutely everything. It's a strategy game. You're trying to get as much done as possible before the day ends. That's what Pikmin's been since day one, and this game just really feels like, even though, all things considered, It's kind of what Pokemon's trying to do, but it's done way better. Because again, it constricts you to 3 Pikmin types. You know how that helps? Even though you can't answer for everything. That's the thing. You cannot answer for absolutely everything in most situations. There might be some where it's like, okay, I'm just going to use blues for this entire map and just deal with it. You can do that, but then, you have to deal with like elemental, like hazards and dungeons or something. I don't know, man. It is so, I don't know. It's so good. I don't know. I'm trying to pick my thoughts wisely, but Pokemon forces everything to be easier, and like sometimes it is out of your control whether that easy thing is implemented or not. I think that's my biggest complaint with modern Pokemon is the easier option is sometimes forced upon you without you being able to change it. Pikmin, on the other hand, that's not the case. It allows you to make an overpowered build. Like if you just want to use 100 purple Pikmin, you're perfectly in your right to do so for the entire game. But there are some hazards and some enemies that won't be so easy to fight. And again, depending on what you bring at what time, maxing out your Dandori so you don't have a Dandori issue. That's how Pikmin is. And it's choosing. And I think that is the cool part about Pikmin 4 compared to the other games. You can't have a solution for everything, and you actually have to go back and forth with your onion to get a specific loadout of Pikmin for each individual situation. And, not to mention, you can play a part of the game with a different loadout of Pikmin every time, and the situation is drastically different for the most part. Or, if you just want to use Ochi, that's perfectly fine too. You can do that as well. There's so many different options to tackle Pikmin 4, but it's not like you can do every single one of them whenever you want. You can, but you have to go out of your way to do it and to strategize instead of in Pokemon being like, okay, look, I got this thing. Oh, but I just have this thing, so I'll just change to one of my 6 Pokemon that has the one move that can do quad damage. In Pikmin 4, you have to do a lot more you have to actually do more to get that easier option. You have to go back, waste time, which is your most precious resource in Pikmin 4, to go back and change. So it's planning properly, rewarding you, and your easier option is not planning ahead properly. If you do, you waste your most precious resource, time. Pokemon, you don't lose shit if you decide to go an easier option. That's just, okay, I gotta stop comparing it to Pokemon, because that'll happen for the entire podcast. Just suffice to say, Pikmin 4, it offers that accessibility, and it offers that easier option, but you have to think and you have to plan ahead. You can't really do that with modern Pokemon, like, at all. Unless you go out of your way to do it. Which you shouldn't have to. The game should be inherently challenging, which is... Pikmin 4 is inherently... I think that's the thing. Pikmin 4 is inherently challenging, to a degree, and the way that you can go easier or harder on this game is purely relied on whether you can manage your time properly or not, or if you can strategize properly or not, if you can plan ahead properly. That is how you decide on whether this game is easier for you or no, whether you learn and grow as a player and be more strategic and min-max the absolute shit out of everything or not and spend a whole ton of days, which granted, it's not really something that matters in Pikmin 4, but still, to get the less days, you kind of have to plan ahead and do everything like pretty damn precisely, which is cool. It rewards you with less days and less time being spent. The more effective you are, the quicker to the finish line you can go, which is good. A lot of people get a lot of high dopamine boosts after that. Pikmin 4, I think, succeeds in the accessibility and making a franchise game a little bit easier, but more fun. But still keeping the risk and keeping the fun, compared to Pokemon, where it made the game easier and that's it. It didn't make the game more fun, it just made the game boring. I think that is the big thing, and maybe that's why I like Pikmin 4 more. I did tease in the trailer, why did I not play this game over Breath of the Wild? Or why did I finish this game instead of, committing to Breath of the Wild and finishing that game all the way to the end? I need to be perfectly honest, it's not because Breath of the Wild is bad. It's not. It is not. Or not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild isn't bad either, but Tears of the Kingdom is not a bad game. Are the dungeons okay? They are very underwhelming. I think the dungeons, the temples in the game, the 4 main ones that you have to go through, they're kind of boring. At least the one I played, which again is supposed to be the first one you go to, so as far as I know, it's meant to be absolutely boring and not testing of your skill in any sort of way. Maybe that's just me. I enjoy exploring the world, and I enjoy doing that. I genuinely do. I just don't expect myself to finish that, because really, the charm of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is exploring. If I get to the end credits, that's fine and dandy, but I'm gonna play that game to explore a vast open world and just find stuff, to mark my map and just to go somewhere, find a really cool boss and take it down and feel like it's worth my time. Pikmin 4, it's a very linear experience. I can see the finish line, I can see it's visible, and I can see that it's doable. Tears of the Kingdom, it's a giant world. Unless I want to beeline it towards the end, which completely negates the whole point of a game like that, which is to explore and find secrets and stuff, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to explore and I'm going to find stuff, but I'm not going to like commit myself to the game and finish it, you know? It's not that I'm not respecting the game. I respect it to the point that I'm playing it probably the game wants me to explore everything, find every nook and cranny, and find the little glimmers of gold that are in those nooks and crannies. And, you know, even appreciate the places that don't have anything. And just appreciate the view, appreciate the time that someone had to take to sculpt this giant landscape that I get to go around in a vehicle, a motorbike, a car, a giant penis man, a horse. You know, like all these different things. I can build all these different contraptions that maybe I want to test out. There's so many sky islands. There's this vast underground that I want to go through. I'm not going to finish that anytime soon. I'm going to chip at it. And hey, if I get to the end, cool. But I think going into open world games, the biggest downside to an open world game is I absolutely cannot expect to actually finish it, you know? I like linear games that are around 30 to at absolute most 50 hours. Like 50 hours, I have to be fucking hooked on it. Pokemon Platinum, I think I put around 25 hours into. Pikmin 4, I put about 40 into. 40 to absolutely 100% anything. That was my sweet spot, baby. And you know, open worlds, it's just they have so much shit in them. And I don't expect to do them, you know? I'm not trying to like say I can't beat Tears of the Kingdom unless I explore absolutely everything, but it's like, if I feel like I've explored enough and I want to tackle the story, then I'll do it. I don't know. It's just the way that I play big games is I like to do as much as I can as possible. I want to flesh out, I want to see the ins and outs of a game and do absolutely everything that's possible. And so, you know, thinking about a game like Tears of the Kingdom, that is very hard to see the end to. You know, that'll probably be if I actually am that invested into the game, that's going to be like 60 to 100 hours of me just exploring absolutely everything, seeing what's there. That's a lot of commitment. And it's a lot of time. And again, I'm one human being. I have like 30 Wii games I have to go through. Like, I'm going to realize that and I'm going to be like, oh, I'll just finish a game that's a lot more compact, a lot more, you know, consistent. I want a game that is finite. You know, I like games that are finite. You know, like you play them once, you finish them, it's done. You get to enjoy that experience. It's a memory you get to live on forever. You get to see the story. You get to have fun. That's it. You don't even do the post game. Just enjoy the experience for as it was. You got to see the end of the game. You get to see the end of that story and you get to enjoy it. And if you want to replay it, new game plus new game, whatever. But you know, it's nice to, you know how nice it is to feel like you've finished something and you get to see a story you get to see a story through from beginning to end. It's a really good feeling. And feeling like there's not a million things to do in the way, that also encourages you to see the end of the story. You know, add some side content here and there, but don't make the game overwhelming. You know, people, like one of my friends' values, she says, if I can't even get $1 per hour of a video game, I'm not going to buy it. That's not a bad way to think of it. And that's why she's probably, you know, with a lot more money than me right now. But it's just, you know, a lot of people really value their time, and that's what open world games provide. They provide bang for your buck. but at the expense of, having to put a lot of time into a video game just to to see it through to the end. Some people just want to enjoy a video game from start to finish and that's it. And some people just don't want a bloated video game. I'm one of those people. Will I still play games like Tears of the Kingdom? Will I still play games like Baldur's Gate 3? Yeah, I will. And I'll have a good time. If I can enjoy a video game, I'll enjoy the video game, and that'll get me to play it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to actually finishing a game, that's a whole nother story, to the point that I'm like, I'll just do that. I personally enjoy a game that has a very obvious start and finish. Do it. That's my personal thing. It sounds stupid, it sounds basic, but again, I've said a million times, if I have a Mario game, I'll play as Mario. If I have Pokemon, maybe I'll think about playing as Pikachu or Charizard, or having a Pikachu or Charizard. I tend to be the basic bitch when it comes to stuff, and you know what? That's how I enjoy video games. I'm not going to play a game I don't enjoy. That's why I said, as much as I disagreed with Super Eye Patch Wolf, favorite YouTuber, even though I disagreed with his take on Vampire Survivors, I'm not going to force him to play Vampire Survivors. If anything, I want to force him to play the games that he enjoys, like Fear and Hunger, 20 Minutes Till Dawn, that one Backrooms game that I just don't know the name of. I'm going to have him, I want him to enjoy the games that he enjoys, just as much as I want to enjoy the stuff I enjoy. And if that means I enjoy a linear game that tells me what the end is, and it's a consistent just joyride all the way to the end, and it's not a game that, you have like a million things to do all at once, and, it kind of becomes overwhelming, and you're like, oh, this is going to take forever, so I'm just not going to play it. Because I spend like 20 minutes in the game trying to decide what I even want to do in it. That's what I don't enjoy. I enjoy more linear video games, and goddammit, that's my bias, bitch. I don't know. But seriously, that is why I played Pikmin 4 a lot more than Tears of the Kingdom. To the point, I beat Pikmin 4 before Tears of the Kingdom, and to the point that I haven't touched Tears of the Kingdom since, because in my head, I'm like, there's a million things I can do in that game. That just feels like too much work. I'll just play the Pikmin game, Pikmin good. To the point that I'm playing Pokemon Platinum, because that game has a consistent story all the way through. It's a very linear structure of go here, go here, go here. But it still makes the moment-to-moment more enjoyable. Like Pikmin 4, you're going through one area, cleaning it out, goes through the other area, cleaning it out. But the act of doing it is fun. Otherwise, it's not a good video game. Fun fact. It's just, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on Pikmin 4, and specifically why I enjoy this game and, in general, more linear games compared to open-world games like Tears of the Kingdom. Again, this doesn't mean that Tears of the Kingdom is a bad game and open-world games are bad in general, but you see that stuff like in Diablo 4, recently with Starfield, where a lot of people just hate the fact that you're just putting shit in the game that doesn't need to be there. You're just putting fluff. Like, I don't think saying... It's just like how originally, back in the day, when SNES games at your Blockbuster or Family Video would just be like, the games would be like, over 50 levels, over 100 power-ups. Bigger doesn't always mean better. And I think that's the biggest thing I've realized. It's just that simply... I think I realized that, especially in terms of my own enjoyment with a video game, bigger in no way means better. I'm more of a quality than quantity person when it comes to video games. I want it to be worth my time. I don't want it to be something that I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to go through this a million times. Which is funny because I'm thinking about playing Final Fantasy XIV. The hypocrisy is overflowing. But it's just at the end of the day, it's whatever. It's whatever. It's video games, ones and zeros, and blah. 7 billion people on the planet. Who cares? It's just, but at the end of the day, it's like video games, man. At the end of the day, there's like at least 5 people out there that probably have their own, if they had the same seat that I am, the same microphone, they could be up here and they could do this podcast instead of me. Please, no. They could be up on this podcast and say the absolute opposite thing, or say something that I probably can't even think about right now, where maybe they have a vastly different take on video games and preference in video games, because again, no video game is accessible to everybody. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing in the slightest. There should be video games for some people. It's like saying every visual novel needs to be for every person. I think we all understand that is not the case. I think we all understand that. I don't know. Just at the end of the day, Pikmin 4 is fucking awesome. If you can take anything out of this, Pikmin 4 fucking rocks. It is a good game. At the end of the day, it still gets my 5 out of 5. It is a game that it is very linear for the most part. It's a very linear game. It's not that long of a video game, and it's very easy in some regards. But you go from, you do go from point A to point B, but the things you do while going from point A to point B are consistently good, if not a bit challenging along the way. And god damn it, it's really good. Again, Pikmin 4, so far, is my game of the year. It is my game of the year. Tears of the Kingdom isn't. You know, it's not my game of the year, simply because I'm just not playing it anymore. But it is still, it's not my game of the year. It could be your game of the year. That's what it means to be your game of the year. It's what you like the most during the year. Not everybody, if that was the case, everybody would have agreed that Elden Ring was the game of the year, but Quantum TV did not agree with that. Sorry, I've been watching, what is it? I don't even know who the guy is, but video games. Lol. Video games. I don't know. Speaking of video games, I said that I would do an update on Pokémon Sleep. For those who don't remember, Pokémon Sleep is a game. It's pretty much one of the most infamous recent forms of vaporware that actually became a game. It actually became something that actually does exist. It is a game that tracks your sleep data, and depending on your sleep data, it gives you some Pokemon that you can befriend, and you feed a Snorlax sometime during the day so that it has a better chance at getting more Pokemon, a higher range depending on where you are, and pretty much you just do this every day. You get to catch some Pokemon, you get to do some stuff, whatever. I said it was fine, it was really slow with progression, and I said that pretty much for the most part, as much as I did enjoy my time with Pokemon Sleep, I felt like I haven't done enough to give it a solid score. Well, I played it for like one more week and then dropped it. So, if that says anything, I think the game gives... Well, here's the thing. Pokemon Sleep it genuinely did make me want to get some good sleep, because I wanted to see what Pokemon I got. I wanted to see what animations it had. I wanted to see what kinds of... Maybe there was a shiny Pokemon that I could have gotten. I don't know. Who knows? The numbers, the random number generator did. The FBI agent on my phone that controls my Pokemon Sleep knows. It was fun. For the most part, I will give Pokemon Sleep that. It is a game that actually made me want to get some good consistent sleep, and it helped reinforce a healthy habit, which is good, and I'll give it that. But at the end of the day, it's like a New Year's resolution. Eventually, you just don't care. Eventually, you just don't care. And then once you don't care for one day, and then you don't get anything for not doing something, because again, the only way you make progress in Pokemon Sleep, the only way you make major progress in Pokemon Sleep is by getting good consistent sleep. Once you stop doing that, and you stop getting progress, the game... The more and more you do it, the game gets more and more pointless, because then you don't earn anything. You know? It's a game that only rewards you for good habits. But the problem is, once you stop the habit, the game doesn't reinforce anything. If anything, it's just like, oh, too bad, you don't get anything. Okay, well, hope you get good sleep tomorrow. And it's like, okay. And then you forget again. And it's like, I felt like I got in that cycle. And I'm sure other people have too. I'm pretty sure so many people have already, I'm sure people have already dropped it just as much as there are people that are still Pokemon sleeping with a perfect streak to this day. Overall, I give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's good. At the end of the day, it is a game that promotes good sleeping habits, but it does feel like it's a little pay to win. There is a shop, and there's even a battle pass, and I think the battle pass is butt-fuck expensive. I'm gonna look up Pokemon Sleep on the App Store, just to double-check my stuff, but there's some battle pass that you can get, and there's items that give you a better chance at getting the Pokemon you want. It's so... And, the only way you can get it is by getting the currency that's only worth a good chunk of coin. I'm looking at the reviews right now. On average, it is on version 1.0.7 as of looking at this right now. and 3.9 stars, a majority of 5 stars, but then it's an equal amount of like 1 to 4. It's like a decent chunk for all of the other scores, and they're pretty even. So there is a good majority that says it is 5 out of 5, but I feel like there's an even amount of discourse. Yeah, it's about like 60% 5 stars, and then the rest are like equal shares of like 1 to 4 stars. So it's a pretty split game. Most people do enjoy it because, again, at the end of the day, it is possible to get what you want for free, but it suffers mobile/modern gaming tropes of, hey, you want to get the shit faster? We're going to manually make it slow for you to get whatever you want for free. And we're just going to hope that eventually you'll break and buy stuff with microtransactions. Like, the game doesn't have to be slow. They can make it faster. But they choose to make it faster through things that you can buy. It's just like how in Pokemon Go, you very much could in Pokemon Go have an unlimited number of Pokemon in your Pokemon box, and you can easily have no max amount of Pokeballs. Well, just as much as very much the Pokemon Company could make you have an unlimited Pokemon pack. There's literally nothing stopping them. As much as you want to say, graphical limitations or technical limitations, if you can increase your max, they would have been perfectly able to provide you that for free. But they chose to make the game unbearable, to make the game, in a sense, not that fun to play unless you give them money. It's really hard to tell somebody to make a really good product for free. It's really hard because, again, someone has to be on a payroll. Somebody has to get paid for that effort. Microtransactions are pretty much necessary for a mobile game. But again, it's hard, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm a professional in the field. But when there's a lot of microtransactions, and most of them are just to make the gameplay tolerable to some people, I don't think that's a good microtransaction. A good microtransaction is, are you enjoying the game? Is it deserving of money? Then here's some stuff for maybe some extra content, or maybe here's something to reward you for. Here's something to show that you support the game, like a cosmetic. I think cosmetics as a microtransaction make perfectly good sense if they're well priced. Blizzard, but and trust me, we'll get back to Blizzard. I can't stop talking about Blizzard, but we'll get back to them in a bit. I think for mobile games, it should be, do you enjoy what we do? Have a donate page, or give them something that, don't put things that make the gameplay tolerable behind microtransactions. Don't, maybe open upgrades to make the game, make the gameplay, make the free version of the game perfectly playable and perfectly enjoyable and perfectly tolerable. Then add microtransactions to the game to make it even better. The problem is that's not happening. They're making they know what they want the normal flow of the game to be, and then they're like, okay, so this is what we're going to set the microtransactions to. Let's dumb it down and worsen it a bit to make it seem, because in reality, they want your money. They want to buy their third mansion. They want your fucking money. And they know they'll get your money because you motherfuckers like Pikachu way too much. That's how it works. So they're gonna make games that are, for the most part, they're fine. But you know how you make the game good? You give them some money. And then the game gets fun. Here's the thing. With a regular video game, for the most part, again, I say this as a Nintendo-born kid, now adult, somehow, debatably, it is hard for me, because again, I'm grown and raised and still live playing games that are finished products that you don't have to wait multiple updates for. I say this because I haven't bought the Mario sports games on the Switch, or I haven't played Ninja Law. Well, not much. I'm not a fan of the season pass, whatever. I hate that shit, dude. Just give me a fucking finished video game. Give me a quality finished video game. I'll play the video game. It's a crazy thought. But damn, that's how Overwatch was when it came out. It's hard to say what to be done, because again, I'm not a professional when it comes to mobile games, but simply, the fact that I can think of some solutions and I'm fucking stupid, that should say something. I don't know. At the end of the day, Pokemon Sleep is perfectly fine. It's pretty much exactly what I've been saying so far. It's good. I think it's only a 3. It would be a 2 for the most part, if it wasn't for the fact that it supports a good habit. And at the end of the day, it is supposed to increase a healthy habit of sleep. Fun fact, everybody, getting good consistent sleep leads to actually good mental health. It's highly recommended. And if a game can help you do that, if you can gamify sleep and that actually helps you get good sleep and it does a positive thing for you, I'm not going to yuck your yum, my guy. Use the Snorlax. I don't fucking care. But at the end of the day, it feels to me that the game is the game only. It's not like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet where the game only gets good once you get to the set amount of hours where the game finally decides, oh, we're gonna have the NPCs use good Pokemon now. This game only gets good once you drop a few bucks down Daddy Pokemon's pockets. And then he's like, okay. Then we'll give you access to some features that actually make catching Pokemon a lot more doable instead of having to like pray to God that your sleep score is good enough for the week and you're not given that one little dinky Poke Biscuit. You know, pay us a giant fucking battle pass. I remember the battle pass being fucking expensive. I wish I remembered the price of the battle pass, but it was expensive. It's $10 a month. It's not that bad. I still wouldn't pay $10 a month so that I could play the game that congratulates you for getting 8 hours. I don't know. Is that weird? I don't know. I just feel like for a game that literally the whole point of the game is sleep good and get rewards, you can just like pay to win so that you don't have to sleep well. It feels like it negates the whole purpose. And also what you get for sleeping good without paying for it, which I kind of went through, was you just get like a cookie. You just get a higher chance of Pokemon, and then chances are that the Pokemon is hungry for the one like ringy-dink cookie that you get, so you have a chance of maybe getting the Pokemon like just that one time, or you know, just fuck you, maybe you can like spend another $5 for this other cookie that you can buy, and then that way you can get that Pokemon. Like, am I the only one that thinks that's weird? I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that's weird. Either way, $10 a month, I wouldn't, please don't do that. Fuck, it's a loaded can of worms. It's a loaded gun. And it's not something I want to play Russian roulette on, I'll tell you that. But Pokemon Sleep, 3 out of 5, simply because it promotes a good habit. Outside of that, 2 out of 5. A little scummy with the microtransactions that, you know, some of that stuff could have just been provided for free to make the overall experience of the game better, in my opinion. But yeah, Pokemon Sleep. Not as hard to talk about as Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, and Platinum. I really am sorry I didn't go that much into Pokemon Platinum, but it's just at the end of the day, the reason I played Pokemon Platinum wasn't because I wanted to play Pokemon Platinum, it was because I wanted to see if Pokemon was good. And pretty much I talked about why I thought Pokemon was worse. I don't know. I don't know why I need to apologize either. It's again, 7 billion people on the planet. Who fucking cares? You know? Well, a simple reminder for people, one, that, you know, I appreciate you listening to this podcast, but also, if you want to support this podcast, I'm going to just do one last shout out to my members. Guys, I'm a YouTuber. I do every single thing on this channel by myself. The editing, the recording, the art, for the most part, and just absolutely everything that goes on for this channel. It would mean the world to me if simply you could give a like and subscribe to the channel, or if you're on Spotify, go to KiRBiZOiD on YouTube and subscribe. You can also find my podcast there, and that's where you will find my members-only episodes if you pay for a membership here on the channel. Again, it's, you know, I don't deserve your attention. I don't deserve your money. You know, I'm not entitled. Sorry, I'm not entitled. Again, whether I deserve it is up to you. Regardless, just liking the video and subscribing means the world to me, but if you're able to, you will get perks such as a members-only Discord, and bonus episodes such as this, and even sneak peeks on episodes like Mario Party 8. I gave consistent sneak peeks on the stuff that I was doing there, not to mention I gave a sneak peek on my new PNG tuber model, so just little stuff like that, little behind-the-scenes stuff, if that's interesting to you in the slightest. There's a link below. Become a member if you're financially available to do so. Back to the Kirbicast. So as a little reminder, we are not covering movies until the writers and actors actually get paid for what they're actually worth, compared to Disney and other movie companies just not fucking doing that, which is silly. it's the nicest word I can say about that. But just simply said, fucking pay writers and fucking pay people. Otherwise, I'm not gonna watch your movies because I don't want to support a system that doesn't pay people properly. Billionaires are fucking gross. Gamers, I don't know what to say. But to say that, originally this was supposed to be a gaming, movie, and other miscellaneous media podcast. That was what it was. The original intent was. But simply because I don't watch movies anymore, that put a dent in things. But again, we're already an hour and a half into the podcast, so like clearly I don't need to also talk about movies to make a full podcast episode. But I like movies. I like talking about them. Pretty much what we're going to be doing today is we're just going to skip over that and go to the miscellaneous media, pretty much news and just like internet gossip I find interesting. We have like 2 today. It's not that bad. Well, okay, depending on your definition, it's not that bad, but still, I just wanted to talk about 2 little things before we end today's episode. The first one is Charles Martinet leaving and stepping down. Well, not fully leaving, but he is stepping down from the role of voicing Mario, Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, Baby Mario, and Baby Luigi, and he is now becoming the Mario ambassador. There was a video that kind of talked about, Charles Martinet giving his final goodbye before, becoming stepping into this new role. For the most part, I don't understand what the role is for, and in interviews and conventions before everything kind of, right as everything got announced, Charles really didn't understand either what a Mario ambassador means. For the most part, what a Mario ambassador is, from what I can tell, is Charles Martinet will go to conventions, he'll still go to conventions, and he'll still be able to, voice Mario. He'll be like, "Hello, Thomas, how are you? I don't know. Welcome. Thank you for coming to PAX East." I don't know. He'll still go to conventions, and at most, probably he'll go to conventions, and then maybe he'll help the new voice actors step into the roles and just making sure that their lines are relatively consistent with the same energy, cheeriness, and overall impression of Charles. Real fast, because this podcast admittedly got very delayed because of just stuff. This happened, and I'm editing this podcast the same day as the September Nintendo Direct, so if that shows how late this episode is. I have been able to listen to the Wario voice because of the new WarioWare trailer, and I don't like it. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. It's only one line outside of the "excellent," like that kind of thing that he does in the original Direct announcing WarioWare Move It, but the opening statement for Wario in the trailer for the new trailer, it's the new voice actor. I'm sorry, man. He ain't it. That ain't my big man. That ain't my big Wario man. I'm sorry. I try to be positive, but fuck, man, this is gonna be rough. Pretty much, I think that's all he's gonna do. I don't think this is as when you hear Mario Ambassador, it's probably just just to say that basically he's retired. Basically, he's retired, and he's gonna mentor the new generation of Mario and Luigi and Wario and Waluigi and all that stuff. Overall, people already know this. It's already happened. People have already given their thoughts on it. Overall, my thoughts on this are, if you saw my direct reaction to the direct that announced Super Mario Wonder, WarioWare, whatever the new Smooth Moves game is, I don't even know what the name is. That game is... It's not that I'm not excited for it, I just don't remember. It's WarioWare Move It, maybe? I think it's WarioWare Move It, maybe. Correct me in the comments, I don't fucking know. It's a YouTube podcast, whatever. I totally called this shit, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're just being superstitious. It's Charles, he's gotten old, he's just doing a different voice." Nah, bruh. I called that shit when Wario said something in the fucking WarioWare Move It trailer. I knew that shit before Mario Wonder. Because I'm a nerd and I hyperfixate on these things. Let it be known, the one who has no life was correct. Get fucked. No, but I just let it be known I did call it, and I already went through my stages of grief. It's not even, I don't think I even had a stage of grief, because at the end of the day, I'm just in my head, I'm yeah, Charles is old. He deserves to retire. He more than deserves to retire from being the voice of Mario. And whoever this next generation of Mario is, they'll do fine. Nintendo's way too stingy with their company too. They're way too stingy with their IP to not get someone who's pretty damn close to Charles. Maybe that's me putting way too much confidence in Nintendo. That totally has never gone wrong before. I just think that the new voice of Mario sounds perfectly fine. The new voice of Wario sounds a bit weird, but again, I've heard only one line from him, from the WarioWare trailer. Luigi sounds fine. At the end of the day, they're gonna get a quality voice actor, and let's all remember the simple fact, Sonic has gone through like 3 different voice actors already. Like having Mario be voiced this consistently since Mario 64, that is damn impressive. Genuinely. Like, this is in reality, this is kind of a rare occurrence to have someone be voiced this consistently for 30 years. Around 30 years, I think. Like, goddamn, that is impressive. And you know, like, fuck yeah, man. Charles has left behind such a legacy, and it's insane to think because, yeah, I was someone who grew up on the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. I'm used to Mario not having Charles's voice. You know, that's why I think, overall, I think Chris Pratt did a pretty decent job, all things considered, for Mario. Does it sound like Charles? No. But am I used to having Mario not sound like Charles? Yeah. Or, no, it's from Bowser. Dear pesky plumbers. Like that shit, dude. I'm so used to Mario not having that voice, but seeing someone doing a voice similar to Charles, just as fine. Oh, also, and I guess I forgot, this is actually something, so overall, that's just my thoughts. 1, I called it. 2, yeah, I think it's about time. All things considered, I think it's about time. Charles wasn't able to, I don't think Charles would have voiced Mario forever. I don't know, I don't think Charles is an immortal deity. You know, hot take, I guess, but whatever. But I guess transitioning into the new voice of Mario Wonder, the Mario Wonder Direct. It happened, and I watched to the point where it talked about badges, and I don't know if it goes any further than that. That's when I stopped. I don't want to know anything else. Because genuinely, even though Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time, I got spoiled on all the boss fights, and that ruined the game for me. Or at least it ruined the surprise. It ruined the raw reaction I would have had playing that game, you know? It would have made the sense of discovery, finding every moon in the game. That would have made the experience so much more fun. Not knowing how every boss is done and having to figure out the bosses and getting to experience them raw for myself. That got ruined for me. That's like my one complaint, and that is a complaint on myself, not the game. The game has awesome boss fights. So I want to go into that with the knowledge of, I want to go into Mario Wonder with as little knowledge about the game as possible. Once I found out how badges work in the game, I was like, I want to forget this immediately. As far as I know, the only one that I know exists is the hat, where like you can use the hat to glide. That's not an in-game move. And also we know that the Yoshis are actually playable. I'll be honest, I was standing my ground and thinking that the Yoshis that you could play as, I thought they were just wonder effects. Like you do the Wonder Flower and then they turn into Yoshi. No. Yoshi is... It's unfortunate, man. Honestly, my one complaint with Mario Wonder so far is that the Yoshis don't take damage. That's kind of dumb. I don't like that. Granted, Yoshi has kind of consistently been a character... It's not that he's always been invincible, but he's a character that's always been really fucking spongy with health in his games. Like, Yoshi's been consistently spongy in Yoshi's Island, for the most part. You know, he takes well more than one hit to die. You know, his health is Baby Mario's countdown more than anything. Yoshi's Story to an kind of. Like Yoshi's Crafted World, Yoshi's Woolly World. I feel like those games, Yoshi is usually associated with an easy game. Like literally, Yoshi doesn't, if you get hit, Yoshi doesn't die, he just runs away from you. The only way he dies is if he falls off a cliff, which canonically makes sense in game. Does that excuse the fact that I would have liked to play Yoshi with a hit point? No, it doesn't, excuse the fact, but still, it makes sense to a degree why Yoshi would be the easier character. I like that it's only Yoshi that's the easy character, compared to like Toadette being a easy character and then Nabbit being very easy. It's cool that Nabbit's back actually. we have such a huge cast for the game, and we have like Mario, all the characters from Mario, Luigi, Toad, Peach, Daisy, like they all play the same. None of them play differently, and I think that's cool, because then I can play as any character and not have to worry about the consequences. It's purely a cosmetic choice, and you get to hear the voices and you get to have a good time. That I feel like is cool. For a platformer, I think it's cool. You know, it kind of sucks that they don't play differently, but at the end of the day, it feels nice having, it's a give and take, you know? I can play as anybody I want, no matter what it is, but also there's no like inherent difficulty change, which kind of makes the game not as replayable. But Super Mario Wonder looks already to be such a beautiful, I already am fully in love with the soundtrack, acapella, adding acapella to the soundtrack, dude. It has Rayman, like the newer Rayman games, I feel. Like Rayman Origins and then Rayman Legends, I think. It's giving me mad Rayman Origins and Legends vibes, and that is not a bad thing at all. It's really creative. It looks really good. I'm gonna buy it, and we're gonna stream it here on the YouTube channel, so subscribe if you want to see those streams when they happen, because we'll also do that in Mario RPG, which I'm still so fucking excited for. Because I never beat the game. I want to play it. I want to beat it with the cool graphics in the Mario Party Superstars engine. I like the minimalistic UI designs of that game, actually. I know that's a weirdly unpopular thing, but I do like the cleaner UI. It looks good. Yeah, it kind of gets rid of like the personality of the SNES era, but damn, it looks good. It does look good. Just like visually, I like it. I like it. It's a preference. Ones and zeros, everybody. That was all I had to say on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It looks really good, and it already did look good, so I barely watched the direct, so don't spoil anything, please. Pretty please. I know that they showed the Peach and Daisy elephants. That's kind of hard to, being on the internet, that's kind of hard to ignore. The last thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to be very short about this one. Recently, in the past month, people have gotten weirdly upset that Baldur's Gate 3, fucking awesome game by the way, I'm enjoying my time with it, it's good, I'm having a great time. But recently in the past month, people have, rightfully so, because the game, one, touts that it's a complete experience with no plans on microtransactions. It is a game that has been it's so much effort, so much time, and it's so obvious that so much time and effort and dedication and just raw manpower has been put into this game. I'm a huge fan of Divinity Original Sin 2, so playing Baldur's Gate 3, so fucking good. And it teaches me D&D, so that's also an added benefit. Right now, I would give it a 4.5, like it's almost out of 5, but I haven't beaten it yet, so I don't want to give it 1 yet, but it's damn near close to 5 territory. It's so good. People are calling this game, rightfully so, the new standard for RPGs. And to an extent, I do agree. Again, it's the exact same thing. It gives you a million different options, because again, that's what D&D is. It's a million options, you get to choose what it is. Again, it's, what my point is against Pokemon, it gives you a million options, but it's still difficult. It gives you the accessibility to do whatever you want for any situation, but it's still difficult. Pokemon is not that at all. At least not until like 50 hours until the end game. And then it's like, okay, then I don't want to play 50 hours to get to the end, to get to an actually challenging part of the video game. Sorry. Baldur's Gate 3 is just really good. It's good. It doesn't sacrifice challenge for accessibility. And that is something I'm now learning to appreciate very much in a video game. I don't know why it took me so long, but then again, I am a Nintendo gamer, so maybe that says something. I don't know. But still, it's how it is. I'm in a phase of my life where I'm finally like, yeah, I want a game to actually challenge me. I want a game to actually, like, make me fight for a good time, to have me fight for the end, Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. I don't fucking know. Baldur's Gate 3, fucking amazing game. And it is. I think it is just a new standard for RPGs in terms of expansiveness while not sacrificing, a very visible end goal to always go towards. People, and it's mostly AAA developers, let's be honest. Most developers, and it's a lot of like Activision, Ubisoft, so they have no fucking right to speak. They say that this is an outlier, this is not a this shouldn't be the new standard for role-playing games. That's way too much of an expectation. Think about the indie developers. No one should try to do the same scope and same expansiveness that Baldur's Gate 3 is doing. We weren't saying this, that it's the new standard for RPGs. We weren't expecting it. You shouldn't expect anything out of an indie. The only thing you should expect out of an indie is to be surprised. Genuinely, I think that's the only expectation that you should have for an indie. Because that's it. They're indie games. Like, you don't expect, like, AAA quality out of an indie game. If they give it, that's fucking awesome. But if they don't fucking blame them. They're indies. AAA developers using indie developers as a scapegoat so they don't have to live up to Baldur's Gate 3 standard is sad and pathetic, in my opinion. Because thinking about, Activision Blizzard and their whole fiasco with, like, offering $15 for 3 shitty story missions and then offering, continuously offering $15 for the next wave of mediocre to just plain awful story missions. And let's see, Diablo 4 with a battle pass that you can accidentally click because they enabled dark tactics, which is something that, like, Fortnite got sued millions of dollars over, that Destiny 2 had to learn to fix. Holy shit, it's fuck Blizzard, dude. I hate Blizzard so much. Baldur's Gate 3 appreciates the player, gives them a million tools without the sacrifice of difficulty and challenge. That is what I expect from modern games now. I want games to give me a challenge while at the same time not making it fucking, while still giving me more ways to play the game. That's how you make a game interesting and being like, oh, I want to buy this one instead of this one because this gives me more options to explore. This is a different setting. I want to try this out. But when you're like, oh, we're going to give you that, but then we're going to make the game like, we're going to force you to have it be easier, or we're going to force you to like do a million things that you don't want to do so you can do the things you want to do. Like Diablo 4 and its battle pass. It has you do all of these boring pieces of shit tasks. It makes you do chores. And then there's games that are like, oh, we're going to play a complete game, but then we're also going to still add microtransactions on top of a $60 video game. Because god damn it, we want your money and we're not afraid to just be brutally honest to you. It's, game developers, they get mad when people are like, oh, you want a finished video game, you want a finished product, you want a polished finished project with no major bugs and no microtransactions. Well, sorry, pal, that's not part of the system. We want to make money while making the least amount of effort as possible. Sorry if you just don't like that, but sucks to suck, my guy. And it's annoying. Fun fact, it's fucking annoying, And again, this is coming from someone who's played mostly Nintendo games most of her life. This is a very unique, it's a different perspective than other people who have had to deal with this, who have more of a right and more of a more honest and, in the place opinion about this kind of thing. But me, nah, I play finished video games. I play, for the most part, complete finished video games, good and bad. But it's so fucking stupid that they're just like, no, don't try to aim for the good qualities of Baldur's Gate 3 because we don't want to do that. Like, literally, they're not saying that they don't want to make big games, because they want to make big games because they want to stretch your playtime as much as possible to think that, because they think the longer people play the game, that must mean the game is good. But it's like, nah, it's because people want to get to the good part of the video game, but you keep putting it behind boring and empty side quests and content that no one gives a shit about. You put 3 different currencies in the game, you put a crafting system where there shouldn't even need to be one. It's making backtracking to get gear insanely long and tedious. If anything, you should be more thankful and considerate that the fact that your fan base is so patient with your bullshit. And I say this as a Pokemon fan. I don't know. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about, but god fucking damn it, dude. it's so frustrating because at the end of the day, I think that's the lesson I want you to take. One, video games should not and are not accessible to everybody, you know? And I don't think they should be, and I don't think they are. Okay, real fast, if you're listening to this and you're genuinely angry about that statement, let me just reiterate, I'm not talking about accessibility in terms of game mechanics that help people with disabilities, or, you know, I'm not talking about like accessibility in terms of disability. I'm talking about accessibility in terms of difficulty. You know, it also just accessible in the sense that no game is meant for every human being on the planet. You know, Dark Souls isn't made for everyone. Even Mario isn't made for everyone. Animal Crossing isn't made for everybody. And that's okay, you know? Otherwise, you know, we wouldn't have as many good video games as we have. Every video game looks for a specific market, and those that try to look for the broadest market possible, most of the time aren't doing it for the right reasons, and that's like the main topic and the main argument that I'm trying to say. Just, you know, when you're sleep deprived and you've already recorded for an hour and a half, that's a little hard to say while also keeping things in check, so that's why I'm here. I'm terribly sorry to all my headphone listeners. Sorry. I think video games can be made for a specific audience, and that is okay. You know, no single video game is for everybody and should not be for everybody. Not to say that in a gatekeeping sense, but trying to make a video game that appeals to absolutely everyone just makes a worse product. It makes a worse game for everybody, because you're just alienating the fan base that enjoys the games, and you're alienating. It's just like at the end of the day, yeah. Oh, I need a nap. People just want a game. Something to dissociate from. People play video games for a million different reasons, but for the most part, since the original NES, the reason people played the game was to have fun and see it to the end and take the challenge to get to the end of the game, you know? It's like, that's, you know, people like the challenge of a video game. People enjoy, just as much as they enjoy the calm that a game can give them, they also want to see a story all the way through. They want to do this and that. And it's just like, it seems that, like, you know, in order to get the sale numbers higher, game companies are trying to make the game for everybody so that everybody buys it. Not to mention the video game that lasts forever. You know, they want to throw their net to the biggest fucking pile of fish possible, just hoping that they can get like 5 more purchases of a game. And I feel like for games like Pikmin 4 and Baldur's Gate 3 to an extent, because I don't think anybody expected Baldur's Gate. Even the devs didn't expect Baldur's Gate 3 to be as big and as popular as it is. That no one expects, and it's, you know, whatever. It's just, I'm just tired saying it. You know, I'm just, it's a weird way to end the podcast, but at the end of the day, just keep in mind, not every video game is meant for every person, and it shouldn't, you know? And I guess another thing to take from it is, damn, Pokemon really needs to learn to just make a challenging video game for once. If they could make a challenging video game that doesn't require like 30 hours to get to the challenging part, that would be nice. I would enjoy that. Like, literally, I said this in the first episode of the KiRBiCast when I talked about Pokemon Infinite Fusion. The simple fact that you can only use the same amount of Pokemon that the gym leader has, like if he has 2 Pokemon, you can only use 2 Pokemon, that made the first gym actually challenging. You don't experience that with Pokemon, ever. So, I don't know. It's just, at the end of the day, make games, like, we're not babies. Make a game that has some remote form of challenge Pokemon, please. If we had to grow up with Cynthia, and we had to grow up with Lance, and we had to grow up with Red, the children of this modern generation can grow up with something even remotely challenging. It's not that hard. Thank you for listening to this episode of the KiRBiCast, and like I said, as far as I know, the only thing I'm gonna majorly talk about is Baldur's Gate 3. I'm gonna go into more detail about my experience playing with it, and, you know, just some other stuff. And if you want to help support the channel, and get some bonus content. This month, I'm going to be talking about just what it's like not using social media anymore. Like, I've just given up on all social media, of course, bar YouTube. But, you know, it's a very interesting story. And again, it's a more personal story. So that is something I'm going to keep for the members only. So yeah, if you want a members only episode and 3 other members only episodes, you get like, what, 4 or 5 more hours of podcast to listen to while you do whatever you do, you sick bastard. Consider becoming a member. It's the link in the description, and also it's the button right next to the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. It's called Join, and you can see the perks, you can see what you get, buy the perk you want, and get whatever members only content you get. That's going to be it for me. Until next month, I'll see you next time on the Kirbicast, but if somehow you've listened for the past, 2 hours and not know what the Kirbicast is, this is the YouTube podcast that can't be surpassed, and the host of the show. It's the Kirbicast.